Sitting on the mat, noticing now the breath. Maybe you feel more of a deep inhale. With each exhale, allowing to feel more rooted down with the weight into the mat. Now let's take a few moments here, noticing how we're seated and letting it sink down into the mat. As you're feeling the weight sink down into the mat, pay attention to the lower back and kind of flattening the lower back a little bit so it's not as rounded but not, way too arched. In a way that's kind of neutral. And that way opening up the upper back, the upper chest, upper torso, and balancing it with the tucking in from the lower back so that it's more of a neutral spine. Not so much slunched, but not so much slumped over, but more pressing the lower back forward and opening the upper body. Taking another deep exhale. Now noticing the chin, tucking the chin in slightly and raising the top of the head up. So now we have the elongated spine. Now bringing awareness to the breath, maybe the nostrils or another point of focus. Noticing the air going in and out of the nostrils. Exhaling down and gently reaching the top of the head up. Now opening the shoulders back and down. Shoulders down and away. This just encourages opening up the upper body. And relaxing. Deep breaths. Taking a few more breaths here. Now let's move to our hands and knees for some warm-up postures. Our hands below the shoulders and the knees below the hips. Tabletop. Noticing our hands with our fingers spread wide. Maybe doing a little bit of movement to get some movement in the joints of the fingers. Spreading the palms to give them a bit of a stretch. Moving the hips side to side, noticing the lower back. Let's move into a few cat-cow postures. Rounding and exhaling from the pelvis up to the upper back, exhaling and inhaling, curling upwards and opening the chest. Taking a deep inhale, exhaling, rounding again. Inhaling with each opening of the chest, pressing the shoulders down and away from the ears. Those are just reference points. And exhaling, rounding again. Down and away from the ears is just a reference point to help with opening the upper body. Not being so scrunched and tight in the upper body. Allowing for the breath to open. Here we can actually place our hands after returning to a neutral, flat back. Placing the hands a little bit of ahead, and then pressing back into downward facing dog. Both feet onto the mat, and pressing back. Noticing what we're experiencing in downward dog. Keep engaging in that deep breath. When you're ready, returning to tabletop and then pressing back into child's pose. The hips toward the heels, forehead towards the ground. Taking a few breaths here. Looking up towards the hands, and then stepping both feet, coming to a forward fold posture. Stepping both feet between the hands. Noticing our lower back, slight bend in the knees, allowing the head to drop forward. A few more breaths with the abdomens against the thighs. Head dropped forward. Maybe extending the legs a little bit, feeling the stretch along the backs of the legs. And with a flat back, rising up to a standing posture. Noticing our feet below our hips. Taking a few grounding breaths here. We'll move into a couple sun salutations to begin the warm-up type work. Hands by the sides, we can bring our hands overhead, taking a breath, and exhaling, folding. Rising up, looking forward, and stepping back with both feet into a plank posture. Move to our knees on the ground, and slowly lowering down our bodies to the mat. Inhaling, rising up into cobra. Looking ahead. And exhaling, lowering. Now we can return to our hands and knees again and then press back into downward facing dog. Taking a few breaths here. Looking ahead and stepping between the feet. Folding forward. Rising up with a flat back. And then folding. Inhaling to the standing posture. And we'll repeat stepping back with the other foot. Taking a few breaths here. Inhaling, raising the arms overhead. And exhaling, folding. Inhaling, looking up with a flat back. Exhaling, stepping back into plank. Lowering down the knees to the mats and lowering the body. Inhaling, rising up to cobra. And exhaling, lowering and pressing back at the tabletop and downward facing dog. Taking a few breaths here. Looking ahead and stepping forward, both feet between the hands, and a forward fold. Inhaling a flat back, folding forward, rising up to standing posture. Remaining at the front of the mat, taking a few breaths. This won't be too vigorous of a practice, but I will do one more sun salutation on each side. This time with upward facing dog and downward facing dog. Or as an option, you can still return the knees to the mat during plank, and then just do cobra and downward facing dog, or even child's pose. Standing, taking another breath, we'll move to a couple more sun salutations. Inhaling and exhaling fully. Rising up with a flat back, stepping back, lowering down as an option, inhaling, raising to upward facing dog. And then pressing back into downward facing dog. Taking a few breaths here. Stepping forward, this time rising up with a flat back, halfway rising and exhaling, folding. Inhaling, reverse dive, returning to mountain pose. Taking a couple breaths here. Taking an inhale, raising up our arms, and exhaling, folding. Rising to the flat back, halfway rising. And exhaling, stepping back, lowering it to plank and upward facing dog. Taking a breath and pressing back into downward facing dog. Noticing that we're pressing our shoulder blades down the back. Taking a breath and stepping both feet forward between the hands, lifting it to halfway rising, flat back, and exhaling, folding. Inhaling, slowly rising into mountain pose.